What's going on, y'all? I'm back with another one. I got a brand new suggestion box review for you. And for the third time, I watched a movie called The Green Inferno, starring Lorenza Izzo and Ariel Levy. First of all, I want to give a shout out to the ever so great Erica Evans for suggesting I give a review for this movie. Always appreciate it. You know what's up. Once again, you hit me with another one. This time, the difference in this one is I've already seen this like years ago. But I don't mind. But I just haven't done a review on it. So I would call it a revisit. I'm just revisiting something from the past. And with that being said, this was one of those Eli Roth type films. It was an Eli Roth film. It was not just a type. This was an Eli Roth film. This was the second one I saw from him. There was the first, which was Hostel, which is in the back. If you can see good enough, zoom in on it. It's in the back. Hostel's the first. This was the second, and then Knock Knock was the worst. But we're not going to get into that tragedy right now. We're just going to go back to the review. All right. Back to the review. The Green Inferno. Pretty much, it's been seen by now by a lot of y'all already. So let's brief it up. It's a movie where the kids go to the jungle and to do the protests, and they have an unexpected plane crash, and they are dropped into the middle of a field of cannibals, a town of cannibals. The worst thing you could think of on a trip. A field day. The worst field trip ever. Right? That's what this is about. We already know what's up. Now, the positives for this movie. Bro, this movie was so grotesque. So vile, so nasty, so unapologetic about the way it was, that I pretty much, for being my third time watching this in years, I pretty much forgot that I was not supposed to eat while watching this movie. I almost forgot. I think I was in the middle of eating, and then I just, oh yeah, right. That's right. People getting ate. Right. Yeah, when you have to remember not to do certain things during a movie, let me tell you right now, that's a horror movie. That's a horror movie. Okay? That's the definition. That's the true definition of horror. When you can't do certain things, like maybe watching with the lights off, or eat, or think about other things that would trigger some like crazy stuff in your head while you're watching this. That's a good horror movie. I'm telling you right now. That makes for a good horror movie. Trust me. Second thing about this, a horror movie always needs that one character. That one character that just pisses you off. And you wish through the whole movie that something would happen to him. That man would be Alejandro, played by Ariel Levy. He did such a good job of just being highly unlikable. This dude was a D-bag. He was just an a-hole. He was the worst of the worst. Just arrogant and didn't care about anybody but himself and supposedly his cause or whatever he was protesting for. It's just the worst. And his girlfriend, she might have been worse than him. The little girlfriend he had in the movie was just almost as worse, maybe if not even worse than him. I'm messing the English language up all kinds of ways here. But yeah, he was the man. He was the one. He was the one. I just hated that character, and that made the movie better because every horror movie needs that. Every horror movie needs that. Trust me. You just want something bad to happen to this person. Please, everybody else in the movie could agree with me. If I was in the movie, I would have let's offer this man up to these cannibals. Let's offer this man up to these cannibals right now. Let's convince them, hey, eat him first. Eat him first. That's another thing. Let's get to that. That's another thing that made this movie so profound for what it was. It's the fact that I haven't seen a movie that touched on the topic of cannibalism like this. Well, just cannibalism, period, since Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs was a classic for it. Still a classic to this day. I'm not saying that Green Inferno can touch anywhere near Silence of the Lambs, but since that came out, Green Inferno would be second under as far as the whole people eating people topic. All right, because that topic right there is still a taboo thing to some people, and you don't imagine a lot of films being made about that because of just the content of it. Just imagining somebody being eaten alive by another person, being cooked by other people. That is just bizarre and something that is absolutely not normal within what they call it, Western culture or our American culture. We don't do that. We eat chicken and animals, but we don't eat other people like that, man. So yeah, watching this movie is just something that you might not be ready for if you just, you're not, your mind is not open to that, open to watching something like that. All right. That's what made it all far more interesting, on another level, another scale. Now, with that being said, let's get into those negatives, because the negatives, I want to touch on this, man. This movie, for being directed by a director who's been on screen with the best of them, like, Quentin Tarantino, Eli Roth chose to go the low budget path with this. And it works in a lot of movies because, horror, horror. That's not the bad part. It's just that sometimes practical effects, it could be a little cheesy. And then there were scenes that just were not believable. They were actually comical, and I lost the fear or the scare tactic or whatever. Me being scared to watch certain scenes kind of was diminished. Especially, okay, let me give you an example. Let me give my audience an example. There's one scene where a guy they just got to the island. They just got kidnapped, right, by the cannibals, and one of the guys, the only black guy, was sent to a slab out there in front of everybody. They were giving him water, and he was like, "Oh, thank you, thank you." Oh, I don't know why he's thinking something good is going to happen after this, but he lays down, and then they commence to hold him down and cut all of his limbs off. Now, he begins to screaming. They're poking his eyes out, ripping his tongue out. Okay, tell me, who is still going to be alive, screaming, after they've got all their limbs cut off, the eyes gouged out, and the tongue ripped out? Who is still going to be alive after that? This dude was still screaming. It was like a cartoon. It was like watching a Toxic Avenger movie. You know how cheesy those movies are. Good, funny, but cheesy. I thought I was watching a Toxic Avenger movie, man. That was just ridiculous. That was ridiculous. I couldn't even take that scene seriously. How can I take that serious? And there's other scenes in this movie that almost up to the same status as that. All right, and so that kind of had me like, what? What's going on here? Why would you choose to? Why? And there's a part where the guy's running out and he's trying to run away from the island, and the people group up on him and they start ripping him apart, and you see legs and arms and body parts fly out like a cartoon. Like a cartoon. There's a part like that too. So that just kind of not doled it down, but kind of took away from the scary in the horror when they did stuff like that. I don't know what his choice was for that, but you know, those are the decisions he made that were kind of low points in the movie. But it didn't hurt it. It didn't hurt it. And you know why? Because I still gave this a hell yeah. That's right. I still gave this a hell yeah. Eli Roth, this is the second best movie from him. The second best movie from you that I've seen. I need Eli Roth to come back. What happened to Eli Roth, man? He is well needed in a time like this where movies are in such dire, drastic conditions right now. We need Eli Roth back, man. Quentin Tarantino, he's done what he can. Let's bring in some of the new dogs. All right. With that said, like, share, subscribe, and